and
Oddworld.
Hey oddballs, I'm your host Jensen, and welcome to episode 117. I'm finally having some time to mass record again. For a while there, I couldn't really do that, so I've been kind of recording and then editing and uploading really quick because life has just been chaotic. But now I'm getting to mass record, but you know what that also means? That means my house is going to get spooky every time I record, and I'm going to get more creeped out the more stories I read, so bear with me. But anyhow, don't mean to bore you. We are actually going to learn today about a mythical creature and how it applies to your life. So here we go. It's lesson time. Today's mythical creature lesson is the Gremlin. Meet the mischievous and playful Gremlin. These mythical creatures are all about unexpected awakenings and have some childlike fun. If life's been too serious lately, the Gremlin is nudging you to reconnect with your playful side. Find that balance between work and play, and get in touch with your creative drive. Prepare for the unexpected, and stay observant of the people around you. So this one is fun and lighthearted until you get to the prepare for the unexpected and stay observant of the people around you. That part is a little ominous to me. And I don't know if it's ominous to you. So please let me know if you think it's ominous, or really just what is your perspective on this whole little section. I'm always so curious and open to everybody else's perspective because I'm just living life in my view in my brain. So it's nice to hear what other people think and feel about things, you know? And that just kind of goes for everything. But also, does this Gremlin apply to your life right now? I'm really curious. Today. Also, I have Sabrina Carpenter's song, Please, 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 stuck in my head. So if you hear me say, motherfucker, at some point, it's just in my brain, and I'm sorry. And yeah, we're gonna go ahead and move on to stories.
This comes from Camilla Maria.
I grew up in the mountains of El Salvador until I was 15, and then my parents and I moved to the US. Most of my childhood was wild and fun, running around with my cousins until sun went down. We explored every corner of those mountains, and it felt like we were invincible. We were kids. But there's one experience that still makes my skin crawl. One that convinced me the supernatural is real. Like most kids, we had our share of scary stories, and my abuela was the queen of them all. She always warned us about La Siguanaba, a woman shapeshifter who lures children into the woods, only to reveal her monstrous form. My cousin and I laughed it off, thinking it was just her way of keeping us close to home. But when I was about 10, something happened that I've never been able to forget. We lived in a small, quiet mountain village, surrounded by thick forest. The nights were pitch black, with only the occasional flicker of candlelight from the houses. One evening, my cousin and I stayed out later than usual, playing by a creek that ran through the edge of the forest. We knew we shouldn't have, but we didn't care. At least, not until we heard her. It was soft, sweet singing, almost like a lullaby, drifting from somewhere deeper in the trees. At first, we thought it was one of those village women, maybe calling us home. My cousin even joked about it, but the sound wasn't right. It was too close. Too unnatural. The more we listened, the more it sent chills down my spine. My cousin went dead quiet, which was rare for him. He was the chatty one, while I was more reserved. But him going quiet made me freeze. I looked slowly at him, and his face had gone pale. His face was turned towards the trees, and I followed his gaze to what he was seeing. A woman stood by the creek, her back to us, long black hair hanging down. She looked elegant, or at least from what we could see. The singing pulled at us, like it wanted us to move towards her. I will never forget that feeling I had through my body. My cousin took a step forward, completely entranced, but something in me screamed to run. I froze, but when I saw him move closer, I snapped out of it. I grabbed his arm, trying to pull him back, but his eyes were locked on her. Then she turned her head. Her face, I can barely describe it. It was like something pretending to be human, but getting it all wrong. The features were uncanny, and in a way that a creepy doll would look like. The singing stopped, and the whole forest went dead silent. In El Salvador, we say when the forest goes quiet, something terrible is about to happen. That was enough for us. We ran as fast as we could, not looking back. When we burst into the house, out of breath and terrified, my abuela didn't say a word. She didn't have to. Days later, we finally told her what we saw, and she just nodded. La Siguanaba, she said, takes the form of what she thinks will draw you in. Be grateful you ran. I've never gone near that creek again. Neither has my cousin. When I visit every so often, my abuela still lives in the same village and the same mountains. But I find myself avoiding the forest, and during the night, closing my blinds. My cousin and I rarely talk of the incident nowadays, but I wish that I could know truly what La Siguanaba's intentions were that night. And if I hadn't grabbed my cousin's arm, what would have happened? This one is gross because this person was a child who just was outside doing their thing, enjoying nature, exploring, doing the things that kids do. And their abuela is like, now hold on, let me spill some folklore knowledge on you of this creature that's in the woods. And of course you as a kid are like, okay, sure. So then you go, and then it turns out to be true. Like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I know it's like a shapeshifter, but it's almost like a siren at the same time. It's like a shape-shifting siren in my perspective. I don't know. That's how I feel it is because the singing, ew. The thing is that this person's abuela said that it can transform into like something that will attract you. So in this case, maybe it was just singing. Maybe that's what was going to attract these kids, and lo and behold, it did. Luckily, this person kind of snapped out of it and grabbed their cousin and ran, because who knows what could have actually happened. But the fact that they encountered something that a family member of theirs told them about is wild, honestly. I mean, I've been told stories of things, but I've never really encountered them. So the fact that this happened to this person makes it even more scary because it's just a tall tale until it freaking happens to you. So maybe just listen to your family if they have some folklore knowledge to spill on you. It could turn out to be true, and you could see some creepy ass black long-haired scary person that doesn't look like a person figure lady singing in the woods. And what a way to ruin the outdoors. What a freaking way to ruin the outdoors for you. Honestly, it's just rude. And this Siguanaba needs to get their priorities straight and leave people alone. Okay. But anyhow, I want your guys' opinions and thoughts, and we're going to go ahead and move on to the next story.
This comes from Average Untuned Guitar on Reddit.
something slapped me. And this old house gave me the heebie-jeebies. I am so curious to this day what slapped me. I remember I was chubby 12-year-old me. I was already crying, and I was lying face down on my bed. I thought my mom came in and hit me. I remember yelling, "Ow!" and turning around just to see and hear nothing. That was so creepy. For background reference, the house I lived at the time was built in like 1920. This house was on a corner. One of the roads connecting it was fairly busy, so there were lots of car accidents and people have been hit. It's nothing crazy, but it was on the same road as my high school, a few blocks away. By the way, everyone was okay in the car accidents, except the man before us who died. This story is so crazy. This old man was standing on the less busy road at night. He had just beat cancer for the second time and was admiring Christmas lights he had just hung up. Then a teenage girl accidentally hits him and he dies. I can't remember if she was drunk or if she was just new to driving, but yeah, my dad told me that like 2 years ago. But when I was a kid, I sensed our house was haunted because it was just so old. And I just felt that it was an old man. We had a grand piano on the first floor. And the last night before we moved, everyone was asleep. And I was in my bed scrolling through my phone. Suddenly, it sounded like someone was playing the piano. I was frozen in shock and fear. I got my phone to record it. And of course it stopped. But I did record one note that played. It's a little hard to hear because it's quiet, but it's there. I forgot who I showed the video to, but I know it was one of my friends. I turned up the volume and kind of sang the note that the piano was playing. They heard it too, and their eyes grew so wide. They were shocked, just like me. I like this whole story, except for what the hell was the slap? Like, okay, the rest of the story is creepy in its own little way, but like, the slap? I'm sorry. But if spirits are slapping you, first of all, that's rude. It's rude. Second of all, why? And also, I am so sorry that you were crying and then a spirit slapped you. That 100% is just so rude. And I'm wondering if because it was built in 1920, because to me that's older. That's an older house. And oh my God, honestly, that is over 100 years old now. So who knows who could have lived in that house? And from 1920 people to people now, like a lot of change happening in between there. So who the hell knows who it could be? It could have been somebody who passed away in that house, near the house. It could have been, from the car crashes. It could literally be all kinds of things. But I'm going to say it's probably somebody who had lived in that house because, 1920, who knows how many families could have lived there and what they were like. And to literally knock you when you're already down. Wow. What a freaking rude ghost. The piano. Okay, let's jump to that. The piano playing on its own. That's kind of fun. That's kind of a fun one. Obviously scary for this person, but I just can't get over the slap. To me, it feels like a meaner spirit. Not necessarily like demonic or anything like that, but just like a mean spirit who was probably mean in their life, who was just like, all right, you have to stop crying. Like, stop being a little, I don't mean any of this, but stop being a little bitch and get up off your bed. Like, that's how I picture this spirit. You know what I'm saying? So they're just mean. They're just a mean spirit. But I'm going to get off of my freaking soapbox and I want to know what you guys have to say. Let me know what you think. And if you have a paranormal story, like either story today, or just a paranormal story in general, head on over to my website, let me know. And I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And well, it's an odd world after all. Oddballs, thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed today's episode, Don't forget to leave 5 stars or thumbs up on whatever podcast platform you listen on. If you have any comments for this episode, comment below or head over to Instagram and comment on this episode's preview. To submit a story or for more information, go to itsanoddworldafterall.com.